The manufacturing sector in India has been a beacon of hope for millions of Indians. Since the Narendra Modi government came into power, Make in India was the flagship program. Now that they're 9 years into power, along with a lot of successes, there have been a few misses as well. Today, we have with us Mr. Ravi Raghavan, Managing Director and CEO, Bharat Fritz Werner, to discuss about the future of manufacturing in the country. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking up the time to speak with ETH Insights. I'd like to begin by asking you about the fact that while even though Make in India was supposed to be this super hit program, what's happened now over the last 6 years is that the contribution of the manufacturing sector to the Indian GDP from 2017 from 15% has only risen to 17% in 2022. What do you see as the way ahead as we progress towards?
Thank you. I think a very good question and a good observation. But I think this was the most critical initiative of the government, and that has a very nice future for being self-reliant for India. And I'll tell you why. Manufacturing, unlike say a services, would take a much longer starting period because of the investments, because of the skill requirement, because of the technology requirement. So, the groundwork that has to be done to even launch is very high, and that period has happened, and that is why we did not see that amount of real output coming out. But if you see now in the last 1 or 2 years, everybody in manufacturing sector would say that they have started feeling this. Let us take a defense equipment for example. We said we will make in India, but to do that a lot of proving, lot of approvals had to happen. That has all happened. Now it is coming to the manufacturing phase, and that is where you will see the growth happening. This has happened in other countries as well. The initial graph is a slow graph, but then it is an hockey stick. What we will see in the next decade or so will be extremely high for any manufacturing company to face. So, I feel that we are all in a perfect foundation. It is just a launch to happen. In fact, for the last 18 months, 24 months, this launch has happened, and it's fortunately has aided us with the changing geopolitical situation. So, I am extremely confident and I am extremely happy with the situation that we are in India in manufacturing. The second point is also that every sector has started showing progress. So, it is not that certain sectors are growing and others are not. You take the traditional automobile, which was a growth engine for manufacturing, or the new sunrise industries of defense, space, aerospace, electronics, everything has started kicking off. And this is for the sunrise sector just a start, and normally they go exponential growth, and that is where we will have to be prepared. My worry is reverse, that once this happens, how are we going to multiply? And that is where we all should be prepared for.
Sure. My next two questions, will be about two very important points that you mentioned. The first one there is skills. There is a widespread belief in the country that there is mass unemployment, and hence job creation is the need of the hour. However, the actual problem seems to be the gap in skills that there is present. As a machine tool manufacturer, how does Bharat Fritz Werner look at the present skill set that is being imparted to the young workforce, and what more can happen on that area?
Yes, that is going to be a challenge as we go. We have the demography advantage, we have engineers coming out, but there is a skill mismatch. Now, all the three agencies, which is the academia, the government and the industry, will have to work together to do. If they do not do, it is not going to happen. Not one agency can do. And as lot of industry associations and we as industry are also working to make that possible. For example, we have to first train our teaching staff in the colleges to appraise them of what's happening in manufacturing,
Sure.
so that they can have the belief and confidence and participate in this initiative. We bring in a lot of academicians to spend in time in our factories, and trust me, their perceptions are completely changed, because the whole perception is manufacturing means a smell of oil, a dirty shop floor, whereas for example we make CNC machines. CNC is computer numerical control, which means that computers were in our shop floors, in our machines from 1980s. That is well before in offices we had computers. We had data in our machines long time, decades ago, than data in offices which we talk about today. AI was part of it, but all this as industry we never spoke about, we never glamorized, we never attracted the younger generations to bring to the manufacturing. Now when they see it, they're changing. So I think this initiative has to be from all the three sides, and there is a mismatch, but very soon it can be, this gap can be reduced if the industry participates in this initiative. Government can do only so much, but the change policy of internship, etc., is helping us. We have spent a lot of time on training. We have our own in the factory. We have our own training school where we train people on machine tool, young people. We have a lot of major workforce is young people, first time workers, so we train them in our shop floors, but at the same time we also expose them to different institutions to specialize. Just to give an example, the skill sets are also changing. If you take us, it was pure mechanical, pure electrical, then it moved to mechatronics. Today we are software engineers in the factory, in the shop floors. So we all have to be prepared, but the most important, which I say again and again, the process is of unlearning and relearning from the top to bottom. I think it starts from me. If I don't change, I don't learn, nothing happens, and that we are trying to demonstrate.
Spoken like a true leader, sir, and it's very nice to know that you're leading by example within the organization and paving the right way for the young workforce. As we speak of the young workforce, and as you've rightly elaborated about the key role that they play, manufacturing as a sector, traditionally at least, is seen as somewhere diversity will not thrive as much. How is Bharat Fritz Werner as an organization working to create an inclusive workplace for a diverse workforce?
I think this notion has to change very fast, otherwise we are giving away 50% of our population not coming into contributing to the GDP. And we have tried very hard to bring this balance in our organization. When we call diversity, it is not only on gender but also on any disadvantages. Let me start with gender. In an old factory which we had which is 50 years old today, it is a little bit difficult to have women workforce because of the ergonomics, because of the other factors. So it was difficult, but we still tried. We had lady engineers. We have a lot of lady engineers in design, in planning, in supply chain, etc. But we are building a new factory now in Hosur, which will be operational next month, where we have planned and we are committed to have 30% of our engineers, our workforce, with female employees. And I wish I could have shown some of the pictures when we are doing the testing with them. Young girls of 21, 22, the smile in their face, lifting a 1-ton component is so exciting to see. And we believe that that's the future for us, because the productivity on certain things that women workforce can do, we never realized that can be so interesting to observe, because they have certain skills which are much faster, say in electrical connections, in certain critical assemblies precise components in spindles for etc. And we have aided them with automation, we have aided them with conveyors. So it's a very interesting site we will have in the next couple of months, but we are committed to have at least 30% of our workforce with women, young girls, I should emphasize that. The other part is on disability. Today, almost for 5 years, we have gentleman in our reception who has disadvantage on eyesight. We as a CSR, we support National Institute of Blind, and we said that it's not only money support, it's the support of employment of those employees. So we've taken them, and you should meet that gentleman. He's perfect and changes 2 metro trains to come to our facility, self-sufficient. So the new facility we have built is completely disabled friendly, and we plan to take more and more of such people.
Really heartwarming to know, and the thought of those young girls lifting heavy machinery, and the definitely brought a smile to my face, as you were talking about it. And as you said, we will definitely, after this interview, meet the gentleman on the reception and exchange pleasantries with him. The second thing that you had mentioned about, brings me to, another key important point of the Prime Minister's vision, Atmanirbhar Bharat. And as we have the Prime Minister, right behind us, here, while of course India must become self-reliant, Bharat Fritz Werner is a great example of how partnerships with the Western world can aid progress. So while it is part of the Kothari Group and a joint venture with the German organization Fritz Werner, you've progressed by leaps and bounds over the years. How do you think, as we progress ahead, we can strike this balance between self-reliance and striking the right alliances, the correct set of stakeholders from across the globe?
Yeah. Bharat Fritz Werner was a joint venture with Fritz Werner from 61, with the Kothari Group. Just imagine an industry house in India, the Kothari Group, at that time felt that manufacturing is going to be the backbone of Indian economy, and machine tool will be the main ingredient in that success. So compliments to the industry house that thought about it 60 years ago. Probably many of us were not born at that time. And that joint venture was a very successful one, continued for some 5 decades, and now it's a completely Indian company. The Indians have bought over the German partner. So it's an Indian company, but what it helped us is make leapfrog steps in technology. We were ahead on certain technologies which this part of the world could not develop at that time, and that definitely has helped us. To your question, our vision of 2047 that Honorable Prime Minister has set for the country is something very exciting for all of us. I always say that we were a generation which was born in a developing country and may probably retire in the cusp of a developing to developed countries, but many youngsters like you may sort of participate in a developed country, and that's a great feeling that all of you should be looking forward to. Whatever numbers, whichever way you put it, 2047 we cannot be lesser than $30 trillion economy, and definitely, as the Prime Minister said, we will be the 3rd largest economy in the near future itself. Now, from a 3.7 trillion to 30 trillion in a conservative, people put this number at 32, 36, but to a 30 trillion economy, it's a big jump of 8 times, right, in the 25 years that we have to do. This growth in manufacturing, has it been in a service, still may be manageable, but in manufacturing it has to come from all around, from every industry participating, from every individual participating, then only it can happen. The amount of infrastructure that we will have to put in our factories, the amount of skill that we will have to bring into our factories is going to be enormous, and that's going to be a task that all of us will have to work on. This interesting phase will bring in the amount of confidence in our people, in our engineers, that we will not only lack on the number, on the turnover point of view, but on technology. Today, for example, we compete on certain machines globally with the best in the world. We have replaced many imported machines coming into our country with the technology that we have developed ourselves in India. And that's the confidence that many of our engineers, many of our designers have got it. And as we grow as a country, this confidence will only grow. So the intangible benefit that we will have will be this confidence, this upgradation in technology, and the belief that we will have to go and tell the world that we can do better than what you do. A leader has to inspire his people, and I think the Prime Minister has done his duty, and it's for all of us to contribute our way in any field that we are in, to take our manufacturing to a much higher level of 25%. Now, growing the GDP at 8 times, manufacturing moving from 17%, as you said, to 24-25%. The third parameter is, when manufacturing has to grow at that rate, you have to have capital goods growing at that rate, because that's a backbone. If you have good capital goods, your products would be better. In advanced countries, it's about 4.8% of GDP. We are at 1.6, 1.7, 1.8%, which means that at least we'll have to double. Double of capital goods is a much bigger challenge, bigger equipments, bigger castings, bigger forgings, bigger roads, higher fixed costs, bigger factories, bigger cranes. I mean, it just goes on and on. So the whole picture of manufacturing is going to change in the next 10 years to 12 years. Fortunately, we should be there to see that, but of course, young people like you would be lucky to participate in that.
I'm absolutely sure and confident, even more so after this discussion with you, that our generation will retire in a developed world. On that note, thank you very much, Mr. Raghavan. Thank you for your time. Absolute pleasure to be speaking with you.
Thank you, and thank you for this interaction, and I think very, very good questions on and focus on manufacturing, which we as a country need today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.